Welcome to the Transnet podcast. We're coming to you from the Mining Indaba 2026, and we're kicking things off with episode 6, where we take a look at some of the things we often don't see that move under the ground. We'll be speaking to the Chief Executive of Transnet Pipelines, Sibongiseni Khathi, who joins me here from our studio here at the Mining Indaba 2026. Babu Khathi, Kosia, Bunja.
I'm well, thanks. And how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. You were telling me quickly off air that you guys have been around for 60 years as Transnet Pipelines, and before then, we used to transport all of our fuel on rail.
No, that's correct. We've been around for 60 years. It has been fun and game. We find the pipeline going. We joined it, and hopefully we'll leave it in a better place.
Yeah.
So prior to us having a pipeline between Durban and Johannesburg, rail used to be the mode of transport that used to transport particularly petrol, your jet fuel, and your diesel, until it reached its maximum capacity, and then a decision was made that we need a different mode of transport, and then pipeline was the next alternative. We started with around about 500 kilometers of a pipeline, and over the years it has developed to be a highly sophisticated network of pipelines. We got an installed pipeline capacity of about 3,800 kilometers that transport now not only just the refined product, but also transport crude oil. We also transport gas. So we've gone a long way for the next 6 years.
Wow. You know, one of the things that I find fascinating about Transnet Pipelines is that your work is invisible to most people. Whether those are industrial customers or even households who make use of the final gas or fuel that you create. How crucial is your pipeline network to our energy security?
No, that's true. We are invisible, but we are felt, and that key. Part of our mandate is to keep Gauteng wet, and I think we all understand the importance of Gauteng in terms of our economy. So if we don't have fuel in Gauteng, I think there was a start that was done that the country stands to lose about R1 billion a day. So that's what we are doing to ensure that there's always a supply of fuel into that part of the country. Not only Gauteng, we also supply in Mpumalanga, Northwest, we also there. So that's where we really are. So it's really critical because you cannot transport the kind of fuel that is used in these provinces by any other mode other than pipeline. You cannot transport it safely and efficiently because of the sheer size and volume that we are dealing with.
Yeah. We're at the Mining Indaba, and often we are quite interested in, for industrial and mining customers, how crucial and indispensable your role is as Transnet Pipelines. Talk to us about that. What impact do you have on them?
No, it's critical impact. I think if you just start in terms of how when you transport fuel on the pipeline, it's environmental friendly. I think as everyone is focusing about decarbonisation and everyone is looking at how much carbon footprint they're doing, if you use road, you really contribute massively to carbon emissions. So as the industry is looking and saying how do they actually get their raw material, which is particularly its fuel, is part of what they use in the mining. They need to look and say, is it coming from the pipeline? Am I not contributing to the carbon emissions by using the roads? So it's critical also to ensure that there's always fuel available closer to where the mining is happening. Because obviously we don't deliver directly to the mines, but we deliver as close as possible, and then we put the last mile transportation via the road. So road is not really our competition, but is our partner. Where we can't get, then the road comes in. And also the sheer size of what volume that the mining customers are actually using. It cannot be supplied by either rail alone and road alone. Pipeline is the only solution, and that's there.
Yeah. I like the point you make about the complementarities. I would imagine that the other element of the complementarities is how you track your customers as their energy requirements change. We often speak about an energy transition. I would imagine some of your customers are also beginning to reflect on how their own energy input requirements have to change alongside that transition. How is that affecting you as a pipeline infrastructure operator?
So we provide the service to the liquid, particularly petroleum industry, and we do the gas industry. So the service that we provide is directly impacted by what the customer's demand is. So as a pipeline company, we are deeply looking in terms of how the landscape is changing as we transition into more cleaner fuel. And we are focusing in terms of how can you reposition our infrastructure and our business to ensure that it still gets sustainable beyond even the liquid petroleum era, if ever it's going to get to that. Part of the work that we are doing now, we are focusing on saying how can we transition to likes of liquid LNG. So we are currently working with our partner, which is Vopec, to develop a LNG terminal in Richards Bay. That will be the first terminal in the country that will bring in liquefied natural gas into the country. That's also what it requires, that we need to then do modifications in our own pipelines. We'll call it a repurposing of that line so that you can then use the LNG that come from Richards Bay. Currently, it takes what you call methane-rich gas from Secunda to the KZN market. So part of the work that we are doing full speed ahead is to try and see the realization of the first terminal. That earmark the transition of the country into a more cleaner forms of energy. But we don't think we'll stop there. There's more opportunities that we think they're there. And we think that there's a role that we must play in ensuring that we provide infrastructure for the transition more.
Yeah. You may care to share, I mean, where else you see some of those opportunities? What do those look like? I mean, you make a very interesting point about the repurposing of your methane gas line to take on board other gas technologies. Where else are you seeing the opportunity?
I think even within that, what we are looking at, there's the current, I think South Africa is constrained about the availability of gas. We went out to the market just to understand the number of people that might be interested in heavy gas. And we find that the current pipeline that we have is oversubscribed in terms of the people that are interested in utilizing gas, whether it's gas to power. There are lots of IPPs that want to put in new gas to power generations along where our pipeline is. So that opportunity is endless in terms of just the gas itself, even if we're just looking at the KZN corridor that we're looking at, notwithstanding the fact that the gas is not only required within the KZN, there's also a need for within the Eastern Cape, and even the Western Cape, there's a need for gas. So we are looking on those opportunities to say what we can be able to do and contribute to that. And I think the experience that we get from the Richards Bay will put in a good state, because our idea is that other than just building the terminal, but we want to build skills, the local skills, that the next terminal that we are going to build in this country will be built by the people that we have trained in the Richards Bay terminal. So those are the opportunities. But also, LNG is not really totally green, right? We're looking at green hydrogen that we're looking at. So we're also just now looking and saying, what role can we play in terms of other forms of energy? So the opportunities are there. It's for us to be able to just make sure we pursue them and we make the right choices in terms of who we partner with in growing and taking advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so interesting you mentioned the green hydrogen opportunity. South Africa has been working on a commercialization strategy for green hydrogen for the last few years or so. I'm also quite keen on the legacy refined fuel story. Many South Africans would have observed the closure of some of our refineries, many of them decades and decades old, and some, I guess, set to come back online following some repurposing. Has that disturbed how it is that you transport refined fuels? And if so, how?
So I think in the past, when we were still at local refining, we used to get sort of a push from the refiners because they were producing. So sometimes we'll produce more and then they say take into the pipeline. So what we've seen lately with the closure of refineries, particularly the coastal refineries, which is your Engen, Endo, and the Subref, we're now depending on imports, right? And imports have got all other variables that impact it, whether it's weather and all of those things. So what we've realized is that sometimes you got a period of feast where there's so much vessels coming into the country, and someone you have a period of famine where we're really living from hand to mouth. What also that has done, it has created an opportunity for us, which we think we want to take advantage of in terms of creating storage within the country. Because in the past, most storages were within the refinery, and we don't have enough storage to keep strategic stock for in case we've got these disturbances that we are having on the fuel supply chain. So there are projects that we are looking at in terms of installing new capacity for storage. So as much as we're focusing on the cleaner transition fuels, we're also saying the old petroleum business is not yet dead. I think there's still opportunities. And we think that probably might not be, there's sort of the last pipelines that we are putting in. The 1965 sort of pipeline, we decommissioned it, right? But there's still pieces of it that's still left, right? And we're in the final stage of decommissioning that. That's why we are putting a new pipeline that is running from Heidelberg from our facility there into the airport to supply the jet. So there's still that opportunity. We think that jet supply will still be there for a long time. We're also looking at new storages that we might want to provide for the country to ensure that at least within the country enough strategic reserves that is required. So there's still opportunities, but yes, to your point, the shutdown of refineries has impacted in terms of how we plan and how we do things. Sometimes we see a lot of feast in terms of the product, and sometimes we live on the famine, but it's part of the nature of the beast.
Yeah, and I guess you have to plan for that. Well, one of the things I'm quite curious about is, with all the things you've mentioned, repurposing, refurbishment, initiation of greenfield opportunities linked in some shape or form to existing pipelines, it sounds like a lot of this is very capital expenditure heavy. How, in the context of the reforms, are you dealing with that? What kind of partnerships are you striking up? And have you also observed some scope for private sector participation in the work that you do?
No, that's right. I think in the past, we have been doing it alone. And I think we reached a point where we realize that partnerships are critical. There are areas where we think that we don't have the skills, like in gas, we realized that we don't have the skills and went out there to find a partner that might have the skills on gas. In some areas, you might want to co-invest with people who want to commit in terms of capacity. We open for partnerships. We will be going out to markets to look for partners in some specific areas where we think that it warrants us to have the partners. The areas where we think probably it makes sense that we do it ourselves. So it's case by case basis, depending on what strategically makes sense for the business.
And as these partnerships unfold, how much of an influence is the broader policy landscape around the repurposing of the operating divisions of Transnet also giving you some guidance? I would imagine that some of the lessons you're learning from your sister or brother divisions regarding how it is you go about these partnerships will come in very handy.
No, that's correct. Yeah, I think we started with our own. So, and then that also has created an opportunity for us to learn from ourselves.
And to also teach others.
We are to teach others, but also the other brother and sister that are involved in other partnerships. And then also we're looking at how can we shorten the period in terms of how we get these things done. Because opportunities, they come and go. And you need to find a way to shorten some of the approvals, some of the things that we do, but also make sure that you do it diligently and you do it correctly. You don't have comebacks as well. Yeah, because those are some of the challenges that you do a transaction. You think that you are certain steps ahead, and then you get maybe court challenges and all of those things, and it takes you back, and then you lose time. So, and also what we want to do is not just working as island. Transnet Pipelines is part of a bigger Transnet. So even in the projects that you're working with, is not only relying on our skills that we have as a division, but relying on the skills that we have as Transnet. And where we think that there are divisions that got better skills in certain areas that we are weak, we co-opt them and bring them in so that they can help us to grow. We don't want to it doesn't make sense that we all make the same mistake. Yes, we're supposed to learn from each other, bring the same people in the table and say, how did you do it? What were the challenges? What were the good things that you picked up? And then from there, we take the good things and then we run.
Yeah, yeah. You spoke earlier on about your links and the geographic span and scope of your pipeline and network infrastructure. We're seeing a reorganization of not just where industrial and economic activity is happening, but even in some of your other broader sister institutions. If you take ESCOM, for instance, a shift in the transmission network to where new generation is happening. Do you envisage something similar here that is likely to happen? That as even in gas, some of the fines unfold elsewhere, that you may also have to, I guess, expand the geographic span of some of your network infrastructure.
Yeah, I think for the liquid petroleum in particular, I don't think we probably seeing opportunity that we can expand. Yeah, given the fact that we almost sort of touching the U into the cities. And then from there, obviously, like I'm saying, there's partnership with other form mode of transport, and then they're able to carry forward. But we do see some other opportunities, maybe where there's no pipeline at all and there's a growth. And in case in point, I think one of the issues here in Cape Town, currently the airport in Cape Town is supplied by road jets. And there's been a growth in passenger traffic, and there's a need for a pipeline.
Wow.
So those are some of the things that we are thinking about to say, how can we play part? Whether we invest or we work in terms of being a subteam aspect in terms of helping us in developing those pipelines, or also then we work in terms of operation and maintenance. So those are some of the things that we are looking at where the growth has reached a peak to the extent that road or rail is no longer an option. We're also looking at, opportunities for neighboring countries. So we used to supply a lot of fuel to the likes of Botswana, right? And then there've been some challenges that maybe they've diverted some of their product, but we are looking at opportunities how to bring them back. Maybe there's opportunities where we can partner with them, maybe to have a pipeline from South Africa to the likes of Botswana. But those are the opportunities that we think that it will make more sense if we can partner with the people who are more closer to actually making that happen. But there are discussions and talks about where can we go. For gas, there's plenty of opportunities. We basically putting our ears on the ground in terms of where the fines are. And there's talks on Namibia in terms of what Namibia can do. And the question becomes, how can we link Namibia and South Africa if it's possible to your timeline one? Because I think for us, for the 60 years that we've been in the making, you got an experience in terms of how pipelines work. We've learned a lot. In some cases, we've bent our fingers a little bit. And then those experiences and lessons that they've learned, the country should not lose.
Exactly.
Even if someone else invests on a pipeline, but you cannot invest in a pipeline without trusted pipeline, being part of that investment. So that's really where we are from that coin.
Yeah. You made an interesting point earlier on, which I want to circle back to, on green hydrogen. It seems to me a very nascent, and maybe nascent is not the word because a lot of R&D has now gone into it and you've got a few test cases in different parts of the world. But from where you're sitting at Transnet Pipelines, where are you seeing, one, that opportunity? But more importantly, what is the nature of partnerships and policy and even regulation that would be needed to give you some reasonable assurance that this is an investable case for you?
No, I think for us, we provide infrastructure and it's always guided by a demand. Sure. Right. And maybe that's good because then other people will have to spend money and do all the research and then come back and
you come later to the party.
Yeah, and say, look, we've got a case here. We think that this can work. And then we say, it's fine. If you've got a case, tell us how much you want to move and for how long you want to move. Sure. Can we sign somewhere? And then we will go and develop infrastructure that supports you. But what is more critical is for us to have our ears on the ground, because while we're not focusing, someone else might already come and take that opportunity. So I think for us, what we are trying to do is to develop skills. Okay. Because we're good with petroleum, We're good with gas in terms of the pipeline. And when it comes to hydrogen, it's a gas, but it's a different hydrofish. So we're now focusing of saying, how do we get the right skills so that when this opportunity comes, we are able to pitch them at the right level. Yeah, we are having discussion in some of the countries that have already had pipelines that are doing hydrogen, and we're trying to figure out how can we then have skills transfers with those countries so that we can be able to get our people there. Because what the idea is that we need to get our people there experiencing this thing. Same thing with LNG, where our plan is to get our people there before we can commission the terminal. You want our people to go there, operate those facilities wherever they are, and then come back and then be ready to operate. Because these are highly risk operations. So we need to make sure that we get the right. Yeah. But I am 100% sure that our people are capable and able to learn and be able to operate these opportunities that are coming.
I'm not an engineer, but I'm super curious about whether the economics of LNG or green hydrogen are similar. So, like, does it make sense for you to just have one customer, or do you need the load, or is the science behind it entirely different?
No, it's not that different. For a case to work, you need to have an anchor customer.
Okay.
Yeah. Like for the LNG, for it to work, we need to have an anchor customer that can take a gas at a certain level and then we have a case, right? Over and above that, then you can have your small customers that might be coming in. But for you to justify the investment, you need to have a certain level of confidence.
Yes.
And then mainly the gas in itself, the LNG, it's key around gas to power, because that consumes a lot of gas.
That gives you the volumes
that you need. And then one of the things that you are working on, particularly for Richards Bay, is to be able to finalize some of the agreements that talks to development of the gas to power. So because gas to power is key in unlocking the gas market, because now at least you've got a anchor client.
Yes.
Then you've got the gas into the country. Then from there, then you can expand.
And everyone can piggyback on that.
Yes, yeah. So that's really where it is. With all of this investment, you need to have a anchor client that will take the volume, and then you create the market. And then from there, then you can then develop going forward.
Last one on my end. Are you excited about where you guys are? I mean, are you also seeing excitement from people here at this mining in Indaba? I'm seeing a lot of people hovering around us now, so it seems clearly there's something exciting you guys are doing.
No, I'm excited. I think not just being here. I guess I'm excited the point that we're in terms of the space that we're in terms of South Africa, in terms of the transition that we are doing, in terms of the type of investment that we want to put. Because our role is to support the industries. Without energy, you don't have an industry. And our role, other than fuel, will be providing the gas. Gas will have gas to power and will provide the energy. Every developing country, for it to succeed, you need to have energy. So we are at the forefront of making sure that we can provide the infrastructure and to make sure that there is a security of supply as far as the energy is concerned, whether it's liquid petroleum, whether is it gas. So for me, it's just the confidence to even the mining industry to say, we've got them covered in terms of providing the security of energy infrastructure for this country. And we're looking forward to put the rest of their investment in to make sure that at least we've got security of supply. Because that's key. To make sure that you not always have consistent supply of fuel, consistent supply of gas, consistent supply of electricity. Because then that makes the industry be able to plan better and to be able to mine better. So we are here, we've got them covered. We are excited about the journey ahead as a Transnet Pipeline. We're looking forward for the next 60 years. And I usually tell the team that we're at the forefront of making the foundation for the next 60 years. Because the decision that we make today, in terms of what choices we make in terms of transition, we lay a foundation for the people to come. If we make the wrong choices, then whoever comes, then we'll come into those wrong foundation that we have made. So I'm really excited.
We trust you to make the right foundations. And if there, is any other matter, history will judge according. But Baba Khathi, asukuthathela uhambe naba abantu bakho all around you here. So I certainly hope you continue to meet up with all of your clients, give them that assurance. But thank you very much for joining us.
No, thank you very much. Much appreciated.